It's gone. It's done.
Hello and welcome to the Star Wars Guys YouTube channel where the Force is family. I am Master Paul, joined of course by, as he calls himself, a true Southern boy, Phil McCracken of Release McCracken. You can see his icon there as his picture. And yeah, I played that clip because we finally are at the end of the Thrawn Trilogy. And I don't say that as a bad thing. This was an amazing journey that I started. Let's be honest, I started this journey way back in 2015, and it's taken me till now, through various, start and stops. I'm finally finished with the Thrawn Trilogy, and I feel like I've completed now a rite of passage as a Star Wars fan. So real quick, let's say hello to everyone. Of course, Phil, you popped in here saying all hail the RBN CEO, Matt Shiny Rispin. Is Matt actually in the chat? If you are, say something, Matt. Say hello. And of course,
never know
hello.
when he's lurking.
You never know. And hello to Mary Lanning, who says that she wants to come in and talk about the book. Okay, that's fine. The link to join is here in the chat. It's in the pinned comment. If you want to pop in, you are certainly welcome to. But I ask that you only pop in, and I'll repeat this multiple times. I ask that you only pop in if you've actually read the book. And Mary Lanning has just showed up. And how you doing?
Muted, my bad. I'm so sorry, I was muted.
Oh no, that's perfect. That is perfectly fine. And hello, of course, to Leia Rose, who for some reason is calling Phil president.
Because I'm the president.
Sure you
You
are.
just don't know it yet.
All right. So anyways, like I've already said, we are talking tonight about the final book, the final part of the Thrawn trilogy. And I already said, I feel like I've completed a rite of passage by getting into this story. And it was an amazing journey from start to finish. And while this book, I love this book, but there was one story beat that I would have done differently. And this kind of talks about the whole Thrawn trilogy overall. We'll get to that when we get to it. But yeah, I love this book. I love this whole story. There's just one tiny detail I would have done differently. So that aside, Phil, since you're here first, what's your thoughts specifically on this final book?
Well, for me, even though it says Last Command, there's a lot. Even when you get to the end of the book, is it really the last command? That's the big question. You can say when you find out towards the end how things go, but we'll see at the end. But another thing that goes that you pay attention to while you're reading the book, how close Thrawn comes to actually pulling it off.
That is true.
That he, like I said, he does not have all the Empire with him. And he does not force those that control parts of the Empire to join him. He's only got 20% out of maybe the 30% of the galaxy that's controlled by the Empire. So he's already handicapped in that amount, that deal. But then again, he's taking on the New Republic, who at this time controls the other 70% of the galaxy.
Right.
For every Star Destroyer that's under Thrawn's command, the New Republic got 7 warships for every one. So that's how much of a handicap. But Thrawn, the tactical genius, the last of the 12 Grand Admirals, and probably the most competent, nearly pushes the New Republic to disaster. If the Empire comes back and wins, what's that say? What's that mean for the galaxy?
Yeah, that is true.
And like I said, when you come down to it and you find out at the end of the book how it all turns south for him, he only loses by, let's be honest, like
it was let's be honest, it was pretty much luck.
Yep.
That he lost by.
Yep. And let's just say it's typical, even though it is the New Republic, it's typical Rebel Alliance type stuff. You get not just the New Republic, but you get pirates. Let's say people dubious, joining in the fight against Thrawn and the Empire. And even so, again, he's still, even against them odds, still looking like he's going to win.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to cut you there for a moment, Phil. I want to get Mary in the conversation. So, Mary, what's your thoughts specifically on Book 3 in the Thrawn Trilogy?
Well, I got the book in my hand right now. I was just looking at the end of the book, like what Paul said, and I just caught a line, and out the line I just caught where it said, I will come with you. And I think it was like, I read that book so many times myself, and because right now, well, not to get off topic or anything, but I'm right in the middle of Brotherhood, the Star Wars Brotherhood. I just looked up a character that was in that like Clone Wars era, and I was trying to look it up on Google, trying to get my phone to cooperate, and then I had to end up spelling it because I'm starting to take note on it, and I was like, uh-oh. So not to get off topic here, I'm getting close to the end of that book, and there was a Clone era character. I think it's Mel Arabeth.
Bel Arabeth.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I couldn't pronounce it very good. I was trying to look him up on Google, but I was trying to look him up on the StarWars.com and try and get his database and check and see if I was correct on it. So, and it was, I was trying to get that, and then, I'm thinking, okay, so yeah, but I read this book so many times, and because I was just getting every time I get close to the end, I was wondering what Thrawn was meaning. I want to know what his real life story in those books.
Of course,
I think he was trying to pick up what Palpatine and Darth Vader left off.
Yes,
he was trying to pick it up. He was trying to be a little more controlled. He was a little bit more controlled when Darth Vader was around. He was trying to control the stormtroopers. He was trying to get controlled. Because I got some other Thrawn books I ordered through Amazon in the past.
Are these the ones like the Chiss Ascendancy ones?
I got quite a few. I got a few of Thrawn books. I got other Thrawn books that I read, and because I couldn't put them down. I was just getting curious of that story, of all Thrawn's story, his whole time story, and I got a thick book that I think I just put in the box here. I got a thick book about says the rise of Empire. It just shows like the Rebel Alliance, how Tarkin got into Wind, and I think Thrawn's in there too.
Right.
I'm starting to believe Thrawn was in there too, because Thrawn was in there, and the Empire is not really ending after Return of the Jedi. Nope. It still looked like the Empire is back at it again with Thrawn's in control.
That's right. Now, my thoughts, I already said it. This is an amazing book and an amazing conclusion to this trilogy. So let's get into a little bit more detail. I'm not going to go completely beat by beat for what happens, but we're going to talk about some of the bigger moments. And I will go ahead and mention before we even get started, just like with the last two books, and this is kind of going to be a theme going forward, I did enjoy this story in audiobook format, And again, shout out to Mark Thompson, the guy who read it, for not only reading it, but actually giving all the characters their own unique voice. And in some cases, doing a pretty amazing job at impersonating some of the actual actors from the movies. Like, he actually would sound like Lando, would sound like Han, would sound like Luke, and all of them. And then for the characters that don't appear in the movies, making up a really convincing voice for them. So that out of the way, let's start before we get into this book, let's recap a little bit of what happened in book 2, where Luke finally meets Master Jeruis Sabaoth on the planet Jomark and spends some time with him, but ultimately leaves after realizing just how deep into the dark side and insanity that Master Sabaoth was. And there was this big fleet called the Katana Fleet that the Empire, that the remnants of the Empire and the New Republic were in a race to get their hands on, and both find it, but by the time it's all said and done, the Empire came out with the vast majority of those ships. And it's also revealed at the end of book 2 that on Wayland, in the Emperor's storehouse, there was a very secret cloning facility, and Thrawn had basically been using that cloning facility to resupply and crew up all these ships that he took. And so he has all the best ships in the world and a literal infinite supply of people that he can literally make from scratch in a matter of days to crew them. However, in spite of all of this, Sabaoth is starting to get too big for his britches and is now declaring himself the Emperor, and is getting it in his head that Thrawn and the Empire serve him instead of the way it was the other way around. And that's kind of how we pick it up in book 3, where the Empire is now attacking all of these different Republic-controlled systems and getting them to surrender. And again, Sabaoth is helping with this, with battle meditation, but he doesn't care about that. All he cares about is getting his hands on Luke, Leia, who at this point has pretty much carried Jaina and Jason Solo to full term, and Mara Jade. And there's a disconnect, and, well, I wouldn't necessarily say a disconnect, but basically Thrawn and Sabaoth had a falling out. And I can't lie, even though I probably should have, I really didn't see this coming. Did you guys?
I would say when you're reading the first 2 books, you know that Sabaoth is insane.
Mm-hmm.
And it was only a matter of time because him and Thrawn weren't seeing eye to eye.
Yeah.
If you notice, they even say there's a problem with cloning Jedi. It's hit or miss. And most of the time, cloning a Jedi or a Force user, most of the time they come insane.
Yes.
Whereas a clone, and remember, this is prequels clones.
Mm-hmm.
Cloning a person to serve in the Imperial fleet, you can do it in a couple days. They have this thing called like a flash thing that they attach to their head that helps them learn whatever they're going to be trained for and doing as a serving the Empire. So they get flash learning, so it helps them learn whatever. If they're a TIE fighter, they're a pilot, so they're going to get trained for that. It's quick learning. But 9 times out of 10, you don't get an insane person from a regular person being cloned.
You're right, and I gotta jump in real quick and share something that I just remembered from years ago. I remember playing Force Unleashed 2 back in 2014, And for those that don't know, the Force Unleashed games follow Vader's secret apprentice, Galen Marek. And at the end of the first Force Unleashed game, it's revealed that Galen Marek, if you get the good ending, that is, he's killed in an attempt to kill Vader and the Emperor. But Vader, it's revealed in Force Unleashed 2, took some of Galen Marek's DNA and created clones of him. And just like what you were saying, every single one of those clones went to varying degrees insane. And real quick, I want to say hello to Black Dragon, who says it's not a prequels clone. They are post-Clone Wars. That is true, Black Dragon, but what he means is as far as when each story was released.
Yes. This is before the clone. Lucas defined. Remember, Timothy Zahn was not allowed to go in depth, or any of the writers of the EU books, to talk about or discuss anything Clone Wars era without Lucas giving the okay. The only thing he got the okay to do was creating the Katana fleet. That was it.
Right.
Any mention of clones or anything, pretty much it's set at this time, nothing, Clone War era. So what I meant is what you said. And if you notice the difference between the cloning, how they're done in this book, in the series, and how they're different in the prequel movies, they're totally different.
Like I gotta be honest. I know the whole thing of was the EU, the whole debate of was the EU canon before Disney took over debates, that'll go on, I'm sure, until eternity. But when I think back on episode 2 and the Kaminoans and how they did cloning, it sounds a lot, and I mean a lot, different than how cloning was described here. Obviously, the Camino and that facility hadn't been thought of yet, but I think it was an accidental retcon of the Thrawn Trilogy that episode 2 did there.
Unintentionally, I think. Unintentionally.
Last time I saw cloning was on The Rise of Skywalker, because they said that it sounds like Palpatine has returned. I was like, I thinking you guys are talking about a clone, but I still got that puzzle stuck in my mind on how they cloned him, really.
It was confirmed in the novelization. I haven't read the novelization to that, but I've seen screenshots where, yes, it is confirmed that Palpatine in Rise of Skywalker was a clone, but we're not here to talk about that tonight.
Oh, sorry, I didn't.
It's fine. It's fine.
It's a rabbit hole you go down.
Let's keep it focused on some good Star Wars.
Okay.
So I like how just in the middle of the battle, Sabaoth stopped his battle meditation that he was doing, and he immediately cast his mind to where Leia and the twins were, and that was literally all he cared about, because, like I said, he was no longer on the same page as, at least, you can argue whether or not he was on the same page with Thrawn at all, but he was willing to cooperate. But now, all he cared about was just getting his hands on his own Jedi that he could make in his own image. And another thing about Sabaoth that really struck me was much, much later in the book. We're going to kind of be going out of order here. But much later in the book, we see him use a Force ability that is the most terrifying Force ability that I have ever seen, where he takes over the mind of this general from the Empire and literally rewires his mind to match that of Sabaoth. Like, worse than a Jedi mind trick. Like, it's outright brainwashing mind control, what he does to this guy. And what Sabaoth wants to do to the entire galaxy. So what did you think when you found out about that?
If you ever read or you ever get a chance to read The Truce at Baccarat,
I have done that, yes.
okay, you remember there's an alien race, they're machines,
Mm-hmm.
and they were rewriting anybody they came across, Empire, New Republic, didn't matter. They were, if they captured them, they rewired their minds.
Almost like the Borg.
Yeah. Uh, and here you have pretty much the same thing, but it's being done by a force user.
Right, but and you gotta think about this too. Here's the scariest part. Suppose Sabaoth did that. Like he was successful at basically rewriting someone's entire being. But in order to maintain that, they make this clear. In order to maintain that new persona, he has to maintain a connection with them in the Force. And when he arrives on Wayland, that Force connection is broken
And he
because of the
dies.
big Islamari bubble, and the general dies. But here's the thing: suppose it didn't. Suppose that he's able to maintain this connection for a while, and he continues to rewrite more and more minds, yet he's insane. How long until his mind just simply cannot take that?
In a way, he's even more powerful than Yoda and the Emperor. But that's, I don't even think the Emperor even had that type of ability to rewrite minds.
He certainly didn't think of it.
Mm-mm. Too dangerous too, because like I said, you can do it to one person, yeah. But if he's able to do, let's say he's able to do 100 people at one time,
Mm-hmm.
or 1,000 at one time,
Which we see him do at one point with Thrawn's Star Destroyer.
yeah, and you you have a being now that's worse than the Emperor. You can say, but that's even possible. Yeah, you're sitting there. Again, he's insane, but you're weighing the thing. You don't have even him. He does not have the people.
No.
Does he have 1,000 people that he can wipe out and say, "Oh, I can replace them"? Not really. Emperor would be more realistic in knowing that he can't raise people and resources that way. But again, Seabath is insane. So
Exactly. Mary, what about you as far as this whole idea of Force brainwashing that Sabaoth demonstrates in this book?
Well, Sabaoth, I think, and he was like a little bit on the controlling side somewhat. But I was like, if I was when I was reading quite further, I was like trying to get my mind check and see if I can. I would imagine like saying, I wonder what Sabaoth is doing, because I think he's not in the right mind half the time. And I was like reading a little bit further, like I couldn't put the book down, not even 1 second. So, but speaking of the Force Unleashed, I got on my Twitter page right now, I got a poll of that about would imagine if it's a movie or a series. I haven't got no votes yet, so it's a yes or no question. There's no debate in my polls. Just vote, and then I can check and see which one is the winner. And but thinking there's no debate in my polls. I have about 4 polls on my page already. 4 polls. So just go on my Twitter is Mary Lanning 2, and just because and I have it was like no change that they think there's something wrong about it. So I just figured if anybody would go out and vote on my Twitter page on all those polls. But so sorry, Master Paul. I didn't mean to get off topic here.
It's fine. It's fine. Let's just I appreciate all of that. Let's just try and keep it on specifically the last command. And real quick, I want to mention something Black Dragon says in the comments, where he says a copy of a copy of a copy degrades to the point of unrecognizability. That is true. Just go to a photocopier and take a document and copy it 10 times. You won't see it. But anyways, let's move off of Sabaoth for a moment and now talk about Leia actually having the twins. First off, I didn't expect it to happen when it did in the story. I thought that the birth of the twins wasn't going to happen until near the end of the book, and yet it happens not even halfway in. And yet I like the way it was described, where she maintained a connection with Jaina and Jason through the Force as the birthing process was underway, and even acknowledged the fact that because both of them were Force sensitive and twins, they will have a very unique connection in the Force that Leia or Luke, despite being Force sensitive, will never understand. And I can't help but wonder if that was perhaps the first example of a Force dyad. What do you guys think?
I don't like using that term.
I know,
I'm
because the
trying to
sequels
think.
used it, but let's face it, the idea of a Force dyad was already there. I mean, that's what Revan and Bastila were.
I think it's more when it comes to my personal belief. I think that Leia in this book, her connection with her children, the Force connection, is just a motherly feeling times 10.
Okay.
You know, a mother has feelings. Sometimes a mother can tell, even if a child isn't anywhere near them, that they're in trouble.
Right.
You know,
Black Dragon, of
so,
course, says that's got to feel weird, maintaining a mental link with your child as you're birthing them.
but yeah, I mean, maybe this is another reason that Leia and Luke don't know why they were so rigid, the Jedi, of not having relations. You know, the Jedi having relations and having children, minus the one. What's that one guy from the
Kiadi
other
Mundi.
panel? Yeah, minus him. No kids, no family. So you see a different type of Jedi with Luke and with his family and everything. The other Jedi, no, that's frowned upon, and maybe this ability that she's able to have that connection maybe caused problems in the past that we don't know. That's the way I saw it back then in 92, 93.
Mm-hmm.
So, because you got to remember at that time, no Jedi that we were ever told had kids.
That is
You know?
true.
So this was all new. This was all new. So for me, it was just a special ability since she's a mom. You can probably say even in the movies when Padme's giving birth to Luke and Leia,
Mm-hmm.
even though she's not Force sensitive, maybe them two, when they're inside their mom's belly, maybe they are able to connect with their mom.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk about one thing that you mentioned there, comparing what we're reading here in this book to what we learn, of course, in the prequels that were released after this book. And I can't help but wonder if George Lucas had it in his head. I wonder how much he had in his head of how exactly Anakin fell to the dark side, and whether or not he actually did have set in stone that Jedi cannot have attachments. Because I can't remember a single instance in the original trilogy
I can relate
where...
to that.
Yeah?
I can relate to those prequels because I was, I'm thinking there was a line that Hannigan did say, attachment is forbidden.
Yes, it was in episode 2 when him and Padme were on that ship, where he was basically twisting his words, saying, oh, we're encouraged to love, but we can't have attachments, we can't be possessive and all that. But my point is, did George Lucas have that in his mind back when he was making the original trilogy and when this book came out? Because I can't think of a single instance in the original trilogy where either Ben or Yoda say you can't have attachments as a Jedi.
If you remember about George Lucas, even with the original trilogy, he's always changing his mind, and God knows what happened between '83 and 1999 when he put his stuff together. Remember, this is Timothy Zahn coming
That
up
is
with
true.
stuff. And the only thing he's limited by is what George Lucas says he can and cannot do. And the major thing he could not do in this book, even though George Lucas approved everything, George Lucas had the final say. He couldn't kill a character without George Lucas saying it's okay to kill a character.
Right.
But he's limited only, the main thing was the Clone Wars. That was taboo. There were, very few references, and they never go in detail.
Of course.
So that's why I think when you talk about Luke's version of Jedi, you know the difference. We have the luxury of going back and see, okay, he's allowing attachments and stuff, where the previous Jedi, that wasn't allowed,
Right.
And think about it. If it was allowed, then everything going wrong with Anakin and his wife about having the children and everything about that going down, that wouldn't have been a part, and he wouldn't have turned to the Emperor or the Chancellor, whatever one you want to call him. He would probably never have fallen in the first place.
Or he would have just over something else entirely.
Else. Yeah, something else.
Right.
But that's just the thing. Like I said, we don't know because George Lucas probably had 5 or 6 differing clauses or stuff the Jedis couldn't or couldn't do. So, yeah.
So, with all of that said, I know ultimately what happened. I know vaguely what ultimately happens with Jaina and Jacen much down the line. I know that Jacen turns to the dark side and ultimately becomes Darth Caedus. He learns under Darth Lumia, and he ends up killing Mara Jade, and Jaina ends up having to kill him. But that's a long way away, so we'll enjoy the ride till we get there.
There's a third child.
Oh yeah, Anakin Solo.
Yeah, he gets killed. And so in the fourth, Luke's child, Ben Solo, the real Ben Solo, the real Ben
Skywalker.
Well, Skywalker, whatever, the sequel trilogy got in my head.
I know.
It's hard to erase and eradicate that, but
that is true.
I will say this. It is a good thing when you come down to it, real quick, and then we can change the subject, that Luke Skywalker's Jedi are different than the Jedis that we have in the Old Republic.
Yes.
I personally, I don't see the problem with falling in love with somebody that you're involved with, or if they happen to be Jedi. I think it makes you stronger, not weaker.
Right, as long as you're able to keep it in your mind that ultimately the job and the will of the Force come first.
I mean, if that one Jedi Master that isn't a Clone Wars could have kids and permitted because, it's said in the book it's because of his race and the Jedi allow it. If he had no problems, that goes to show everybody else could have had no problems.
True. So with that, another thing I want to talk about is Mara Jade and her relationship with Luke. Now, again, recapping from the first 2 books, Mara Jade was formerly of the Empire. She was the Emperor's hand, the one that he sent out on special assignments that he otherwise wouldn't give to anyone else, including Vader. And she was on Coruscant when the Emperor died and received a telepathic voice from him giving the last command. That's why the book is named The Last Command. As the Emperor was falling down that shaft, he sent a message in his mind to Mara Jade saying, "You will kill Luke Skywalker." And every time that Mara Jade is connected to the Force, anything could trigger that message playing in her head again. And on top of that, she also has dreams showing a distorted version of what happened in the Emperor's throne room in Return of the Jedi, where both Luke and Vader teamed up with their lightsabers against the Emperor, and in her dream, Mara Jade can only watch. Obviously, we know in the movie that's not how it happened. But over the course of the story, and this goes beyond book 3, this is all 3 books, over the course of the story of her meeting Luke, getting to know him, having to work with him, all these preconceived notions that she had of Luke slowly get chipped away to the point where later on in the book it's revealed that that's where her dreams were wrong, that Luke basically barely had anything to do with the Emperor's death, aside from calling out to his father, asking for help, pleading with him to come back to the light side. Vader, at least in the physical sense, did all the work. And
Also
so to see...
remember that
Oh, go ahead.
Vader wasn't really knowledgeable of Mara Jade and the role and what she's doing.
Mm-hmm.
But the Emperor really... We know it's implied. They never mention more Emperor's hand, but her job, Thrawn knew what she was about. Thrawn knew, and she knew Thrawn. But her role was never saying, "Oh, this is the Emperor's hand." She was always introduced kind of like I want to say a servant of the Emperor, but not with the title. Her job was to do everything in secret. If there's a Moff or an admiral or a general that's out of control, the Emperor sends her. But her main purpose is for the Emperor. If Vader ever turned on the Emperor, her job is to take on Vader. That's her job.
Right.
That was her role. I mean, other missions and other things, yes. But her main purpose for the Emperor, her mission was to do them. But main mission, Vader turns, she's to go after Vader. Because you come to find out, even though Darth Vader betrayed the Jedi and served the Emperor,
mm-hmm.
the Emperor never trusts Darth Vader.
Right.
Never trusts him. And that's mentioned in this book.
And that's just the nature of the dark side in general.
They're always after each other. So
yes.
This was the Emperor's secret card, his ace up his sleeve, if you will. I have a problem with Vader, I send my hand.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
So again, getting back to the presence, seeing all of these preconceived notions that Mara Jade had of Luke getting torn away bit by bit was really nice. To even the reveal of how the Emperor really died, and Luke basically telling her, listen, that voice in your head isn't real. That's just a memory of the Emperor. That's not the Emperor himself. And basically saying that, yeah, you have that voice in your head, but at the end of the day, you make the decision as to whether you kill me or not. And real quick, Black Dragon says 2 things in the comments. He says, Adam Driver was a good actor, but Kylo Ren was a bad, misused character. Wholeheartedly agree. And then he also says, for the Sith, only the strong survive. It's the apprentice's duty to overthrow the master. You're right. And we're going to hold that thought, because toward the end of this stream, when we talk about where we want to go next with this EU journey after we're done, that is something that I do want to talk about. But we'll get to that when we get to it. Now, let's talk more. Let's switch. We'll come back to Mara Jade, but let's switch gears now and talk about everything involving Talon Card and all of the smugglers. And basically the smugglers, at least Talon Card, deciding, okay, look, I wanted to stay neutral, but at least from a business standpoint, it makes sense to openly side with the New Republic against the Empire, because Thrawn and his clones are dangerous to me. And of course, Thrawn, in his scheming, tries to make Talon Card out to be a traitor, but the real traitor gets found out in the best way, and Talon Card honestly ends up being a better character than I thought he would be. Like, he's, as far as like the one character that I would say is my favorite, he is a strong contender. So what did you guys think of Talon Card's story in this book?
That's who I'm trying to look up. I was trying to look him up.
I
I
gotcha.
like Talon Car, but for me as a character, I think he's overhyped.
Mm-hmm.
I think his retired boss is 10 times more interesting. You know, but he's where his boss was more deals in the galaxy with information. Information is the currency for them. Talon Car seems to be more, yeah, he deals with information, but he gets involved in other people's business.
Of course.
So
Was that character mentioned in chapter 22? That's who I was trying to look up.
Who
yes,
is that again, Mary?
I do like that.
It says Delacour. Isn't it in chapter 22?
I don't think so.
Okay, so
But real quick, Black Dragon mentions something, and this is another character we could talk about. He says Garm Bel Iblis is a
Yes.
better character.
He was one of the original EU 4 people that started the rebellion. He was originally part of the Special Forces, I think, Old Republic, but they weren't. His troops weren't clones, and sided with the rebellion. And he was one of the 4 heads with Mol Mothma,
Right.
Bail Organa, and somebody else. I forget the 4th one.
And then, of course, Bel Iblis later left because he had a disagreement with how Mon Mothma was running things. He was basically scared that Mon Mothma was drawing in too much power to herself to basically be a new emperor.
Yep.
But
he pretty much was the EU version of that one character in what's that movie that the only Disney Star Wars everybody likes, Rogue One. The guy, he's also in the Old Republic, Clone Wars.
Saw Gerrera?
Yeah. See, he was. I think he was more modeled Saul McGregor after I can't say his name.
Bel Iblis.
Yeah, he was more modeled after him. But the difference is, Saul Gerrera never goes back to join the rebellion. He always stayed by himself. Where Gorm does go back. He does join the New Republic.
Right.
And becomes a general in the New Republic.
So, Black Dragon, I'm curious, though, why you say that Bel Iblis is a better character than Talon Card. I like Bel Iblis, and I can certainly see why many people would call him his favorite. But I'm just curious as to your reasoning, Black Dragon. But Mary, what about you? As far as both characters, Bel Iblis and Talon Card, what's your take on them?
Well, I bet you they were on the dark side of things, or were they on the Republic side?
They were on the Republic side.
Well, Marth Martha, she was sorry, I can't pronounce her name really good on these books, but I liked her, but I did remember him disagreeing with her, and it was really bad. I don't know if he was arguing with her, because there was an argument in between those two characters.
Right.
There was an argument, and she didn't want to continue arguing with him. He said, she's like, okay, do whatever you want. She did that with Saw Gerrera too in the Rebel episode.
That is true. So, moving on, let's talk now about the Noghri. Throughout this whole entire trilogy, and especially in this particular story, I think the Noghri have probably become my favorite race in all of Star Wars, as far as how they were portrayed, being these creatures that are bred for stealth and assassination, and yet they have this strict honor code about them, kind of similar to the Wookiees, at least with Chewie's life debt, that were able to realize that they had been duped by the Empire, and they then swear their loyalty to Leia and Luke for being the son and daughter of Vader. And I really liked, I've been trying to put off talking about this, but I guess I'll go ahead and do it. I basically like how Thrawn ultimately died, where it was
Last.
revealed that it was basically, this was revealed ahead of time that it was coming, and yet how it happened was just so perfect, where the Nogri that were helping, that were down there on the planet with Luke and Leia, said, don't worry, all of the Nogri people are united against the Empire now. And yet you still get a surprise when during the battle where the Empire's honestly winning the space battle against the New Republic, all of a sudden the Nogri turn and slashes Captain Pellion's throat and impales Thrawn in the chest. And what really surprised me the most of all was the fact that it was Thrawn's specific bodyguard, Rook, that basically that did the dirty deed. Because I thought it was going to be one of those things where Rook was like 100% on Thrawn's side, even against his own people. And it surprised me that even he was going to put his people over his master, as devoted as he was. And I like Thrawn's last words where he says, I liked how artistic that was.
If it was Thrawn.
I know the conspiracy theory, but for now, let's just take it at face value and say that was indeed Thrawn.
Well, just remember, Pelion does survive, and he does kill that Nogri when he tries to make his escape. It's not all in the book. It's in one of them short chapters. Remember this. Even though the Nogri has decided they're going to join and side with the New Republic, they still don't let you talk bad about Darth Vader.
Right, which is something that I guess Luke and Leia especially just kind of have to get used to.
Yeah, they do, because in their minds, Darth Vader was the one that came to help.
Right.
Even though he did dirty, but in their minds, Darth Vader never does dirty. Darth Vader just happened to be, the Empire's bad, but it's Empire's bad because Darth Vader's not there. Pretty much.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you notice they never refer to Luke as Lord Vader like they do with Princess Leia. They call her Lady Vader.
And
even
they call him son of the Lord Vader.
Son of Lord Vader, yep. They never call him Lord, but Princess Leia does get that Lady Vader all the time.
Right. But yeah, just the Nogri people, as I said, they're probably right now my favorite species in all of Star Wars, and I want to know more about them.
Read more and you're going to find out.
I intend to. Mary, what did you think of how the Nogri were portrayed and how ultimately they were the ones that killed Thrawn?
Well, I think, when they betrayed him in the book, it's like Thrawn is probably given the choice: either you stay or you can just kill me and be done with it. And I think that's how they probably did. They probably just plain killed him off. Like, I've seen this done in the other two books, in the first two books, and he they didn't want to kill him in the first book. They didn't want to kill him in the second book, and then until they got to the third book, they said, okay, let's just end him and get it over with.
Right. And hello, by the way, to Crit, who says, good book. By the way, did Crit ever pay you back that money he owes you,
He
Phil?
owes me now $100. He keeps going around using my voice, so yeah, he used it today, so now he's up to $100. So it's $100, or I go out there and take his shoes and socks.
Why his shoes and socks?
So every time he walks, he doesn't have any comfort, and he knows with every excruciating pain, every time that foot hits that cement, that pain will remind.
You're just turning him into a hobbit.
Well, Crit is a hobbit in a lot of ways. Yeah. You can't sue somebody that's poor, so I will take your shoes and
You
socks.
are not poor.
I didn't say I was poor. I said Crit was poor.
Anyways, excuse me. Black Dragon says, even though Talon Karrde is with the rebellion, he is still nothing more than a mercenary. Okay, fair enough, I guess. Now, let's talk about the real finale, because actually, no, before we do that, let's talk about this. You know how I said that there was one thing I would do differently about this whole story? Excuse me. Gotta take a drink. Well, first off, scratch that. There's two things I would do differently. Number one, the biggest one. Okay. I'm sorry, Black Dragon. He says, talking about Bel Iblis, he started out as an Imperial agent who turned and created the MLC-5 artillery tank for the rebellion. And even though Talon Karrde is with the rebellion, he's still nothing more than a mercenary. Okay, that makes sense now. So here's what I would do differently about this whole entire trilogy. And first off, let's talk about that there's only two things I would do differently. That is a testament to how good this story was. But here's the two things I would do differently. Number one, I would, as far as the final space battle between Rogue Squadron and those pirates and the Chimera, I would hype it up a little bit more as like a true do or die mission, at least from the rebellion point of view. Yes, from the Empire point of view, it's like, if we trap them here, we can crush them. But from the rebellion point of view, I would state it more where it's like, if this fails, we are done. So that's the one thing I would do differently. And then number two, there's this one plot thread that runs throughout the whole books, the whole trilogy of books, of something called Delta Source, where it was revealed that there was an information leak in the Imperial Palace in the New Republic government. And I thought that the reveal of what Delta Source ultimately was incredibly disappointing.
But
because
it was nice.
Hmm?
It was nice though, but you least expected that it was a protocol droid.
I know, but
when you were reading it and you thought Delta Force, you're thinking maybe like a team. You don't know what the team was.
That's not at all what I was thinking. I was thinking it was Winter, Leia's handmaiden.
Oh no!
And honestly, I would have preferred if it was that instead of just a random microphone on a tree.
Yeah, protocol droid.
Yeah, that's like the one thing that I would have. That's like the biggest thing I would have done differently about this whole trilogy. I would have had Winter, Leia's main handmaiden, be a mole for the Empire, which would have made it even more tragic because Winter, much like Leia, grew up on Alderaan. And of course, even this late into the game, what happened to Alderaan would have been fresh in her mind. And yet I'm sure Thrawn could have pulled something on her to convince her to rat out her closest friend. So that's like the one thing I would have done differently. What do you guys think?
Well, I knew Winter was like what spied to the Empire the whole time. And Winter, she was like spying on the New Republic too, and nobody did not know that she was spying on every single detail. And I think when the last book finally came out, I think, and it was like, hey, that truth revealed on her. Truth got revealed.
Okay. Phil?
Well, for me, like I said, I thought it was awesome that it turned out to be a droid. But, you know, is that the only source? You know, it is the ex-Imperial capital. You do still have ex-Imperials in the Imperial Senate and government.
True.
So, yeah, there's a lot of things that could have been a source. But I just find it ironic. The last thing you're going to think of, anybody check out this protocol droid or this servant droid? No.
Right. So with that said, let's now talk about the true... Black Dragon says that is the reason Winter was loyal to the Republic. Okay. Now that I think about it, the whole Alderaan thing does make sense. But at the same time...
So she wasn't a spy from the Empire.
No. That's what I'm saying. She wasn't, but if I was writing the story, she would have been. But that's okay. It makes sense why she wasn't. So, with that said, the last thing we're going to talk about tonight is basically the true final boss of this whole story and how Sabayoth got taken down. Oh my goodness, we have some VIPs in the chat, Phil. We have someone called the Phantom Booligans saying hashtag Phil is actually a commie.
Yeah, the only communist in this country or in the state of California stand.
I don't know. A certain president that we have in office right now is from your state.
No, he's not. He's from Pennsylvania, Scranton.
Well, he fell in your state.
What can you say? We do have desecrants and carpetbaggers. There you go.
Yeah. And I know what I said, Cash. I know what I said. So anyways, let's talk now about Sabayoth's downfall. So the whole second half of the book, the most attention is paid to this expedition that Luke, Han, Chewie, Lando, Mara, and the droids, they go to Wayland to infiltrate Mount Tantus and figure out how these clones are being made. And they do find it, and they make a plan to destroy the cloning facility, but they also realize that Sabayoth is here because Sabayoth contacted Mara Jade in a dream saying, "You're going to become my new apprentice along with Luke. You don't have a choice." And after some different events, Mara Jade and Luke end up face to face with Sabayoth, and surprise, surprise, Sabayoth has made a clone of Luke out of the hand that Luke lost in episode 5. And this clone of Luke is wielding the lightsaber that he lost when he got his hand cut off. You know, the classic Skywalker lightsaber. And so Luke is literally having to fight himself. It's that vision in the Dagobah cave all over again, but this time it's real. Meanwhile, Sabayoth is just toying with Mara Jade. And of course, Han and Leia and Talon Karrde show up and they try to help out, but Sabayoth is, at this point, he's like full tilt crazy and is just lashing out at everyone. Mara Jade gets a lucky shot and ends up cutting down the clone of Luke with Leia's lightsaber. So in a sense, she did kill Luke Skywalker.
Luke with 2 U's.
Yes, I'm not going to even bother trying to say that. It's a weird, awkward word. So the clone of Luke Skywalker. And then Sabayoth Sabaoth basically gets cut down by... Remind me, Sabaoth got cut down by Luke, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that was correct. That's what
Okay.
I was looking up right now.
Okay, yeah. So, and eventually Sabaoth himself gets cut down by Luke. And just before this, we see this huge demonstration of Sabaoth's power where he... Black Dragon says, so how did Maz Kanata get the saber? A good question for another time.
Yeah.
No.
And Phil likes to play his game on easy mode.
My
And
name
so
ain't
do
Cash
I.
Money. My name ain't Cash Money. And my games don't crash on a live stream. Right?
Cash, the link is in the chat if you want to come on here and respond to this.
Oh,
smack
no,
talk.
no communists allowed. I don't deal with communists. Or socialist.
Anyways.
But
so
we never mentioned how or why did Sabaoth got Luke's hand and Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber.
So how it got off Bespin, it's not made Okay, so let's recap what we know here. So where they were in Mount Tantus was the Emperor's storeroom, where he kept his most prized possessions from all of his conquests. I can only assume that the Emperor somehow got his hand on Luke's severed hand and lightsaber and sent it to Mount Tantus for safekeeping. How the hand hadn't, gotten all gross by then, I don't know, but whatever. Sabaoth, of course, knew that it was there because before Thrawn found him, he had lived in that mountain. And so he had the clone requested early on in the book from Captain Pelion. He was kind of Jedi mind tricking him to do it. But basically had him created, had him somehow trained, and gave him the lightsaber. Oh, and by the way, at the very end of the book, after everything's said and done, Luke and Mara Jade are talking with each other on the balcony of the Imperial Palace, and Luke gives her the Skywalker lightsaber as a gift.
Yeah, and what drink were they drinking on that balcony?
Hot chocolate?
Yes. How in the galaxy did they get a hold of hot chocolate?
I don't know, but that made me chuckle when I read that in the first book. So yeah, Sabaoth in a blaze of pretty much literally goes down in a blaze of glory. And I like that they mentioned that energy blast that came from when the Emperor got thrown down the shaft in Return of the Jedi, that big blue stuff. That Sabaoth does the same thing when he dies, and that it's revealed that is like concentrated dark side energy that had built up in his body. So if anything, you could say that the dark side, at least by that logic, quite literally makes someone a ticking time bomb.
Now, the people that were on Mount Tantus, that planet, or that village or town or whatever, since Sabaoth controlled them, either when he left or he died, even though it's not Jamark. Jamark's another planet. I guess they all died, don't they?
Either that or
he had control of everybody's minds on the planet, whatever planet Mount Tantus is on. So
I guess either that or they returned to their normal selves.
Yeah, but he already rewritten their minds.
True.
So I guess everybody on that Mount Tantus planet died.
Yeah. And by the way, Black Dragon, it's green. So basically, long story short, and just kind of wrapping it up tonight, this was a great book, like I already said, and this was a great story, all 3 books in one. And we've said it multiple times, and I'm going to say it again. They should have made a movie of this.
I agree. or a series, but I think a movie should be more better.
Yeah. Like, okay, I love the prequels. I grew up with the prequels. However, imagine if in 1999 we've the next Star Wars movie releases, and instead of it being Episode 1 The Phantom Menace, it's Heir to the Empire with Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, and Harrison Ford back in the role, and then you get whoever the closest fitting actor was at that time to play Thrawn, call in someone old and crazy looking, like Phil, for example. Get Phil to play Sabayoth.
Mr. Dorn, the guy who played Worf, would have played a great Thrawn. With the makeup and everything, he would have been a great Thrawn.
I could see that. I could see that.
I will tell
And you know
this.
what? Get Sir Ian McKellen to play Sabayoth.
You know, if they would have done this, if Disney would have done this as their 3 movies, they would have made the fandom happy.
They really could. But here's the thing: they really
didn't-
couldn't have done it though, because Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, and Harrison Ford were too old, and not to mention, there's no what ifing out
They
of.
could have CGI it like the Rebels. I mean, not Rebels, like the Clone Wars. They could have used them as voice actors. Yes,
I don't think people would have been okay with that, because and I'm playing devil's advocate here.
Mhm.
Imagine that you find out that Luke, Han, and Leia are coming back in a brand new Star Wars movie, but it's not actually them on the screen. It's just a CGI creation that, yeah, they're providing the voices, but which would you rather have? Just their voice or all of them?
I'd rather have had that and their voice, knowing that the only other way they could have done it without going the Disney route was getting new actors to play it, which I don't think at that time people would have been
right. But
too happy.
but my point, Phil, is imagine if they made the Thrawn trilogy when the prequels were made, when Luke, Han, and Leia, when Hamill, Fisher, and Ford were still of relative enough age where they could have done this.
I would have said that they would have done it when, instead of George Lucas focusing on Indiana Jones in the late 80s, had he focused on them 3, something similar to them, to Timothy Zahn series,
yeah,
it would have been hitting a baseball out of the park.
I think so too. Like, let's say hypothetically the first, well, we could sit here and hypothetical this whole thing. The point is they didn't, but at the same time, the fact that we have these books at all is good. And the fact that they're still in print, you can still go out and buy copies of these books if you're not happy with what Disney has given.
Something to think about. If Shadows of the Empire, 1996, book, game, comic books, action figures, everything a movie had, but no movie, was such a big hit, and that was very popular, they could have done the same thing with these movies, with any type of movie, cartoon, CGI, actual movie. If you're using the template of Shadows of the Empire, it's all there. And Shadows of the Empire was a big hit on all outlets, except there was no movie. You got action figures, video games, comic books, and they all were hits. Everything from that. And that's just from the game. Remember, the actual book come months afterwards. You got the game before you got the book. You got the action figures before the book. So if that's proof in the pudding right there, how popular. And if you were alive in 96, you remember how popular it was. Then anything that Timothy Zahn did a couple years ago, if he said, let's just say hypothetically, instead of doing the special edition Star Wars in 97, 98, 99, he did the Timothy Zahn books. they would have been a hit.
They
And he
would have.
could have done the Clone Wars afterwards. But it is what it is. Like I said, for me, there's a lot of ifs there. It's nice to think about it. For me, the biggest if was I think George Lucas got derailed unintentionally with Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones interfered in going on with the series. But that's a long period of time, 84 to 1999.
Yeah.
That's a long time there. So, and again, that's what makes these 3 books so great. This was as close as we got to a series of movies or anything dealing with Luke Skywalker after Return of the Jedi.
Right. And Cash is making a good point here. We could continue to say what if this and what if that, but the reality is we got what we got.
Yep.
And yeah, Disney's trying to make their own. I've said this before, I'll say it again. Disney is making their own version of the extended universe. They started this in 2012 from the moment that they bought Star Wars and the moment that they cast aside the extended universe that they already have, with the exception of where they're cherry picking stuff from it.
Yep.
All that Disney is doing right now is just making their own extended universe, just one that's more focused on visual media instead of print or games.
Just remember this. And this is, for me, the last one I'm going to bring up what's new with Disney. When everything went south, what did Disney do? They turned to Timothy Zahn and immediately asked for books about who? Thrawn.
Oh.
And then he start inserting Thrawn, Rebels, and now whatever they're coming in, whatever live action, whatever it is. So as much as they wanted to distance themselves from the EU, the EU to Disney practically saved their butts.
That is true.
So, even though we still have yet to see Thrawn in any form or fashion, besides the mention of on that one Mandalorian with Ahsoka mentioning Thrawn.
I remember I watched that episode where she said, "Where's your master? Where's Grand Admiral Thrawn?" And because she's trying to look for Thrawn because of Ezra.
Yes.
Ezra Bridger.
But I will say this: the Thrawn that we get in Rebels is not this. I mean, they're similar in a lot of ways, but you don't see the technical genius of Thrawn compared in the EU.
Okay.
You do what you see in the EU, even from these 3 books. You didn't get an inkling of that in Rebels. You got some of it, but you didn't get it to the degree where Thrawn is going to win. No. And yeah, I liked Rebels, don't get me wrong, but that ending with Thrawn with whales and octopuses and everything.
Captain, there'll be whales on our Star Destroyer.
And the big question, even though I guess you can say it was somewhat in the atmosphere, when they stick the tentacles into the windows and break them and they warp through space, isn't there a vacuum now? Because we'll just leave that up to Disney. We'll leave that to Disney.
Yeah, I ain't even seen it, so I can't comment on that.
But
yes, our discussion on Rebels is coming down the pipeline, guys. Don't worry.
But as far as this book, just remember what I said. Was it Thrawn that was killed? Now, somebody was killed, but was it the Thrawn or was it a clone of Thrawn? So unless you read future in the EU books, you're not going to find out.
Well, right now, because this is all I've read, I have no choice but to take it at face value. But we will continue to read into the EU, and that kind of leads into the last thing I want to talk about as far as, the stream in general is, where should we go next? Now, I already know you have that list that you sent me, Phil, But there's another direction I want to go also, and that's going back and look at Darth Bane. So here's what I'm going to do, guys. I'm going to put up a poll on the community tab of our channel, and you guys get to decide where we're going next in the EU. Do you want us to keep going with the New Republic, or would you like us to go back and cover Darth Bane? So the moment this stream is over, that poll is going to go up, and we'll go with whatever you guys want to.
Could
Phil?
I throw a bone out there?
Sure.
Okay. If you go back to Bane and everything, then I will tell you, in a way, you would have to go afterwards to Raven. And right. You're already on a series of books, and to skip is equivalent of, the only way I compare it to make it so you can understand, I'll try to make it this way. It's like going from OT, skipping over Next Generation, and going into Deep Space Nine. Without watching TNG, a lot of things that happen in Deep Space Nine and in Voyager wouldn't make sense.
Fair enough.
I think you should bunch all them I don't want to call them High Republic, but let's say older Republic. I would put that on hold because you would have to go through Bane, and I think there's a series of 2 books, and I think there's a third out there that's something about his apprentice. And then it goes into Raven. They're not tied.
Hold on. Revan existed before Bane.
No. Bane is older than Raven.
No, he's not.
We're going to have a debate on this.
Trust me.
Raven did not come up.
Mary, go ahead.
Darth Raven was also mentioned in one of the books too, but I think he's also mentioned in video games. You're talking about Darth Raven?
Yes, Darth Revan is older than Darth Bane.
No. Raven is 300 years before the fall.
Okay, we got to settle this right now.
We're going to have to settle it because Bane is the creator, not Darth Raven. Bane is the creator of the Rule of Two.
I know, but the Rule of Two didn't. But the Rule of Two didn't exist during the time of Darth Revan because Revan's story it basically covers the Knights of the Old Republic game, and there's thousands of Sith during that game.
Right. But that's my whole point. Darth Raven, after the defeat on a planet that the actual General Hoth, dude's the planet named after, the Sith used something called a Force Bomb against the Jedi. There was a whole war on that planet. And only Bane is the only one that did not get trapped by this Force Bomb. When a Force Bomb goes off, everybody inside that bubble technically dies, but their souls and their essence is trapped there. Jedi, Sith, all of them. After that, Bane is the one that survives it, and he's the one that comes up with the Rule of Two.
Black Dragon agrees with me. Revan came first. And I have a source to prove it. And no, it's not Wikipedia. This is a timeline that someone has put together of all Sith in Legends. So let's scroll all the way up to the top here, where it talks of here's the first split between the Jedi and Sith and the creation of the Sith Order, 6900 BBY. Here is, of course, all of the founding Sith Lords. Scroll down. Here's some more. Naga Sadow. Those are all mentioned in the Old Republic. You can visit their graves. Here's Exar Kun, the guy who invented the saber staff. Here's Darth Ondidu, the guy who first used Darth. Here's Darth Treya, who you fight in Knights of the Old Republic 2. And then here's Revan. Here's Revan, and of course his apprentice Malak. Scroll down, of course, Darth Nihilus, Knights of the Old Republic 2. Malgus, he was in the MMO. And then all the way down here, there's Darth Bane. So Darth Bane did come after Darth Revan.
Sounds like I need to read that book. I think there was books on that one.
And Black Dragon says Darth Bane modeled all of his philosophy and teachings after that of Revan.
Sounds like I need to read those books.
Yeah. And don't worry, whether I read them before continuing the New Republic stuff or after, I will read all of them and, of course, give you guys my thoughts on them as I do. Everything all right, Phil?
I'm looking it up.
Okay.
No, I'm not using that site that we all know that is hideous.
Yeah. That whole Wikipedia thing, I didn't want to talk about it, but yeah, they've been acting stupid both on Twitter and on their own site. I'm not going to talk about it here. If you don't know already, look it up on your own time.
Exactly what I did before I came on the show. I was looking up characters.
Yeah. So, do you want to keep the stream going, Phil, while you look that up, or can we go ahead and sign off?
Sure.
Okay. Then we'll go ahead and just keep the stream going so that Phil can verify the information. Crit pops in and he says he's halfway done with his Rise of Skywalker movie, and he can't wait for us to review it probably around May or April. Awesome. I am definitely looking forward to that. And real quick, speaking of Disney Star Wars, that's another thing. So this coming Wednesday, of course, is the 1st of March. And we all know that Mando Season 3 premieres this coming Wednesday. I have decided, probably against my better judgment, that I am going to watch that show weekly. Now, we are going to cover it on this channel. I think what we're going to do for now is we're going to make covering Mando and our EU books 2 separate things. That way we can devote all of our attention to one or the other and not be split between both. So the EU stuff will remain on Sundays. Mando, let me think about it. Tentatively, I want to say we're going to stream our discussion on Mando Wednesday night after it's released. But stay tuned for more info on that. I may kick it to Thursday depending on who all is talking about it, because I don't want to overlap anyone. Have you found your info, Phil?
Still looking. Trying to get the name.
That depending on if Echo-Based Network is going to reveal it or not, because I know Coach talked about it yesterday.
Yeah, I was listening in on that. And hello to Klaus Wolfgang, I hope I said that right, who says, "Long live the Empire." Indeed. And side note, I don't believe I've seen you on here before, Mr. Wolfgang. So for anyone watching this, if this is your first time here, of course, the subscribe button is right down there. It costs nothing to click it, so please do, and make sure you hit like also. And while you're here, go ahead and subscribe to Release McCracken. Phil has his own channel. I'm going to go ahead and put a link to that in the chat also. Mary, do you have your own channel?
Yes, I do. It's Mary Lanning, and I only have 28 since Friday, so I need more subscribers to my channel. I've been trying to get my word out to everyone, to remind everyone if you want to subscribe to my channel, just review my videos. I do. If you want to pay attention to my old life videos, I do talk about Star Wars. I do play guitar. If you catch me playing guitar playing, I'm just streaming a little bit. So
okay. And Klaus, by the way, says, "I'm new also. Greetings from Germany." Oh, awesome. Cool. Thank you. We're going international tonight, guys. So welcome. I hope you stick around and enjoy what we have to offer. I will go ahead and say, well, first off, real quick, Mary, can you do me a favor and send me in the private chat a link to your channel for me to put it in the chat?
Sure thing.
Thanks. I'll go ahead and tell you, Klaus, that we are called the Star Wars guys, but Star Wars is not the only thing that we discuss. We also have a weekly show that will be coming back soon called Tuesday Night Trek. We're going to be, when we bring it back, we've already decided we're going to be covering Star Trek Generations.
Oh, that's my favorite movie. That's one of my favorites.
Okay, nice. Black Dragon says, you're always international when I'm here. Is that because of your career or because you're using a VPN, Black Dragon? And we also have a second channel, by the way, Klaus, called Master Paul's Music and Games, where I will do streams of myself playing guitar also, and I'll also play video games. The most recent one I've been playing, I tried to play Hogwarts Legacy on there, but my computer wouldn't let me. So,
it's revolting because Paul put it on story mode, not even
shut
easy
up.
mode. Story mode.
I did not do that.
The game refuses to cooperate.
I did not do that.
If you're playing a video game like Hogwarts, please do not put it on story mode. At least put it on easy and then normal, but not story mode. Or your computer will break down on you.
Yeah, I did not put that game on story. I did not put that game on story mode. I put it on easy
You're
mode.
looking at every direction, but straight at the us on.
That's because I'm looking at the chat right now.
Well, Master Paul, I heard a rumor. I don't know if it's true yet, but I heard a rumor they're going to put Hogwarts Legacy on HBO Max, and they're going to turn it into a series. So just be on the lookout for that. Like they did with the Last of Us. They had a video game of it, and then they turned it into a series right after that. And guess who's in it?
I know. I've heard about it. I have not played the games because I don't do horror games like that. So I'm not touching this series with a 10-foot pole. I'm honestly not the biggest fan of the whole zombie genre. I mean, I love Left 4 Dead 2. Me and Pacific and Crit and Cash were playing it the other day, and we had fun. But I'm not a big fan of
wait a minute. You played
stuff.
that, and you paid for me to play that, but you didn't ask me to play. What was the whole point of giving me that game if you didn't want to play?
We will still play it together, Phil.
No. I've been
go do your research
by a commie and a whale that won't pay the money he's owed. What's up with that? Who messages you every day?
You do.
Not the Phantom Hooligans, not Crit. Who checks up on you? Are you alive there? Me. But I wasn't asked to play. Oh, I see how it is.
To be fair, Phil, that's because I was playing something by myself.
I
already told you I've been focusing on the Persona games.
So, it's nice to know I'm not a first wheel, second wheel, third wheel, or fourth wheel. I'm the old-fashioned fifth wheel that's a spare.
Anyways, did you find what you were looking for, Phil?
Not yet. I'm still looking. That's why I'm delaying.
Well, we're going to go ahead and shut it down, okay?
Okay, I'll share it with you as soon as I find it off stream.
All right. Well, anyways, guys.
Where's the voting?
I haven't put it yet. I said I'm going to do it after the stream's done.
You're slacking. Cash Money would have had it up there.
All right, fine. You are so pushy.
Put it in there so we can vote now while you have the people.
Okay, give me a second.
Do. I had to change the tune because I didn't want to get copyright strike for, humming the tune that's copywritten.
I know. Here, I've got a piece of music we could do for you.
Isn't that glorious music? I like this part right here. Only thing missing is a flute.
All right. Let's turn this stuff off now.
Good music. Good
All right,
music.
so the poll is now live. It is in the community tab of the channel. It says, here, I'll go ahead and bring it up real quick just so you guys can see it. So it says, now that we've finished the Thrawn Trilogy, where should we go next in the EU books? Continue the New Republic stories, or go look at the Old Republic, the Darth Revan / Darth Bane books? So we'll keep this voting, and we will have this poll. This poll will last a full week. So next Sunday, I think next Sunday we're not going to cover any book. We'll do something next Sunday, even if it's a gaming stream. But by this time next week, we will know where we're going to focus. And also, just because here's a biblical Star Wars meme from you. Go look up 2 Samuel chapter 11 if you don't get this.
What, the King David and Bathsheba?
Yep.
Oh, we all know what happens.
I know. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and shut it down now. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. Go subscribe to Phil's channel and Mary's channel. Mary, your channel's the same name as your name, right?
Yes, it is. Correct.
Okay. So go subscribe to all of those if you haven't. And make sure, because the Force is family. See you guys later, okay?
Where's my Buster Bar?